Does language shape thought? Language is one of humanity's most remarkable inventions. It allows us to express emotions, convey complex ideas, and build civilizations. But have you ever stopped to wonder, does language shape how we think? Could the words and structures of our languages define the limits of our thoughts and even the boundaries of our reality? This question has intrigued philosophers, linguists, and neuroscientists for centuries. And today, we'll dive deep into this fascinating topic. Imagine this scenario. You speak a language where there's no word for freedom. Would you still understand and value the concept of freedom, or would its absence in your vocabulary limit your ability to grasp it fully? Or consider the concept of time. While English divides time into past, present, and future, the Hopi language doesn't categorize time in the same way. Instead, it focuses on whether an event is completed or ongoing. Could this linguistic difference affect how Hopi speakers perceive the passage of time itself? To make this concept even more striking, let's consider the Piraha language, spoken by a small tribe in the Amazon rainforest. This language lacks words for specific numbers. Instead of saying 3 fish or 5 fish, the Piraha people use general terms like few or many. Studies have shown that this absence of numerical words directly influences their cognitive abilities. In experiments, they struggled to count or remember precise quantities, highlighting how language can shape and even limit our ability to process information. Another striking example comes from color perception. In Russian, there are distinct words for light blue, goluboy, and dark blue, sini. In contrast, English uses a single term, blue, for all shades. Studies have revealed that Russian speakers are quicker to differentiate shades of blue than English speakers. Could it be that their language enhances their visual sensitivity? Language is often seen as merely a tool for communication. But what if it's more than that? What if language acts as a framework that molds our understanding of the world, influencing not just how we express ideas, but also how we form them? This is the core question we'll explore. Philosophers like Ludwig Wittgenstein believed that the limits of my language mean the limits of my world. According to this perspective, if a concept cannot be expressed in words, it might not even exist in our minds. For example, the Japanese word amae describes a feeling of comfort and dependence on another's care. English lacks a direct equivalent, which might make it harder for English speakers to recognize or articulate this emotion. But is language truly that powerful? Or are our thoughts capable of transcending the boundaries of words? This brings us to the theories of linguistic relativity and determinism, which we'll explore in detail. These ideas challenge us to rethink the connection between language and thought, prompting us to question how much of our worldview is shaped by the grammar and vocabulary we use daily. Think about metaphors for a moment. When we say time is money, we aren't just describing time. We're framing it as something finite and valuable, something that can be earned, saved, or wasted. This metaphor profoundly affects how we treat time, often leading to stress over lost hours or wasted days. Now imagine a culture where time is viewed as a flowing river, continuous and unending. Would that change how people prioritize tasks or reflect on their lives? As we embark on this journey, let's consider these questions. Is language a window into the soul of a culture? Or is it a mirror reflecting our thoughts back at us? Prepare to challenge your assumptions as we uncover how language shapes perception, thought, and even reality itself. Theories on language and thought. The relationship between language and thought has been a subject of fascination for centuries. Philosophers, linguists, and cognitive scientists have all grappled with a profound question. Does the language we speak shape how we think, or is thought independent of language? While some argue that language is merely a tool for communication, others believe it profoundly influences how we perceive and interact with the world. Let's explore some key theories and examples that bring this debate to life. Linguistic relativity. A new lens on reality. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, also known as linguistic relativity, is one of the most influential theories in this field. It suggests that the structure and vocabulary of a language influence its speaker's worldview. A striking example comes from the Hopi language, which lacks traditional tense markers for past, present, and future. Instead, Hopi speakers describe events based on whether they are completed or ongoing. This linguistic structure leads Hopi speakers to perceive time as a flowing continuum, contrasting with the segmented approach common in English. Consider another example. In Russian, there are separate words for light blue, goluboy, and dark blue, siny. In contrast, English uses a single term, blue, for all shades. Studies have shown that Russian speakers can distinguish shades of blue more quickly than English speakers, suggesting that their language sharpens their visual perception. Expanding on this idea, the Yucatec Maya language provides another fascinating case. Unlike English, which emphasizes object functions, Yucatec Maya focuses on material composition. For instance, where an English speaker might call a wooden chair simply a chair, a Yucatec Maya speaker might describe it as wooden, emphasizing its material. Studies have shown that this linguistic focus influences cognitive categorization, leading Yucatec Maya speakers to group objects based on material rather than function. These examples illustrate how linguistic structures can shape not only how we express ideas, but also how we experience the world. However, does this mean language defines reality? This brings us to another groundbreaking perspective. Philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein famously said, "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." According to Wittgenstein, language doesn't just describe reality, it defines its boundaries. If a concept cannot be articulated in words, can it exist in the mind? Take emotions, for example. The Japanese word amai describes a feeling of comfort and dependence on another's care. English lacks a direct equivalent, which might make it harder for English speakers to recognize or articulate this emotion. Similarly, the German word Schadenfreude, the pleasure derived from another's misfortune, captures a complex feeling that might otherwise go unnamed in languages without a similar term. This idea is further illustrated in the language of science. Consider the term black hole, a metaphor widely used in astronomy. While it effectively conveys the concept of an astronomical region with immense gravitational pull, the term hole implies emptiness, which can mislead public understanding. Black holes, in reality, are incredibly dense objects, far from the emptiness that the term might suggest. This highlights how language, while enabling communication, can also obscure or oversimplify complex realities. Modern neuroscience has provided fascinating insights into the relationship between language and thought. Studies using brain imaging techniques have shown that speaking different languages activates distinct neural pathways. Bilingual individuals, for example, often switch between these pathways depending on the language they're using, reflecting how linguistic structures influence cognitive processes. For instance, bilingual participants in one study were asked to describe the concept of freedom. Depending on the language used, their descriptions varied significantly, emphasizing different aspects of the concept. This suggests that each language offers a unique lens through which to view the world, enriching the speaker's cognitive repertoire. One study also explored how speakers of gendered languages, such as French or Spanish, perceive objects. In these languages, nouns are assigned genders. Bridges are feminine and masculine in German, die Brücke. Researchers found that Spanish speakers described bridges as elegant and graceful, while German speakers used adjectives like strong and sturdy. These findings suggest that grammatical gender shapes perception in subtle yet profound ways. It's important to distinguish between two key concepts: linguistic determinism and linguistic relativity. Linguistic determinism, the stronger of the two, argues that language completely dictates thought, leaving no room for cognitive flexibility. For instance, if a language lacks a word for a specific concept, its speakers would be incapable of understanding or experiencing it. Few scholars support this extreme view today, as evidence shows that humans can think beyond linguistic limitations. For example, even if a language doesn't have a word for freedom, its speakers can still grasp the concept through experience or cultural exposure. Linguistic relativity, on the other hand, suggests that language influences thought, but doesn't entirely determine it. This perspective allows for greater cognitive flexibility, while acknowledging the significant role language plays in shaping how we perceive and navigate the world. Theories on language and thought reveal a complex and dynamic relationship. From the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis to Wittgenstein's boundaries of language, it's clear that the words we use influence not only how we communicate, but also how we think and perceive the world. While language may not completely determine our reality, it undeniably shapes the lens through which we view it. Language is more than a means of communication. It is a lens through which we perceive the world. The structures and vocabularies of our languages can subtly yet profoundly shape how we experience concepts like time, space, and emotions. Let's explore how these influences manifest in everyday life. How do you perceive time? If you speak English, you might think of time as linear, a series of moments stretching from the past through the present and into the future. But this isn't a universal perspective. In Mandarin Chinese, for instance, the past is referred to as behind, while the future is described as ahead, much like English. However, the Hopi language takes a completely different approach, categorizing events based on whether they are completed or ongoing, rather than using strict temporal divisions. Adding to this diversity, the Amandawa people of the Amazon have no concept of linear time in their language or culture. They perceive life as a series of events, rather than a continuous flow. For example, they don't use age to mark stages of life, but instead describe individuals based on their roles and experiences at specific points. This unique linguistic structure suggests that the absence of temporal markers can lead to an entirely different way of organizing and understanding time. Western cultures, by contrast, often stress punctuality and efficiency, viewing time as a resource to be spent or saved. This perception is deeply embedded in metaphors like time is money, shaping how people prioritize tasks and measure productivity. But what if time was seen as a flowing river, continuous and unending? How might that change how people live their lives? Space orienting the mind. Language also influences how we navigate and understand space. In most Western languages, directions are relative. We use terms like left, right, front, and back. But in languages like Kuuk-Thaayorre, spoken by an indigenous Australian community, directions are absolute, based on cardinal points like north, south, east, and west. Speakers of Kuuk-Thaayorre always know their precise orientation, even in unfamiliar environments. This reliance on absolute directions isn't just about navigation. It fundamentally changes how speakers perceive their surroundings. Another example comes from Guugu Yimithirr, another indigenous Australian language. Guugu Yimithirr speakers describe the position of objects relative to cardinal directions. For instance, instead of saying, "the cup is to your left," they might say, "the cup is to the east of you." This constant awareness of orientation fosters extraordinary spatial abilities. Imagine if your daily navigation required you to think in terms of cardinal directions. How might this sharpen your sense of geography or deepen your connection to the natural world? Color perception is another area where language plays a significant role. Languages vary widely in how they categorize colors, with some using as few as 3 basic terms, and others distinguishing dozens of shades. For example, the Himba people of Namibia have unique terms for shades of green, enabling them to distinguish subtle differences that English speakers might overlook. In addition, many ancient languages lacked a specific word for blue, grouping it instead with green. This phenomenon is evident in older forms of Chinese and Japanese, where the same word was often used for both colors. Over time, as these languages evolved and introduced new distinctions, their speakers and perception of color changed as well. This dynamic relationship between language and perception highlights the adaptability of human cognition. Emotion. Naming the unnameable emotions are universal, but the way we understand and express them is deeply influenced by language. Some languages have words for feelings that are difficult to translate into English. For instance, the Portuguese word saudade captures a profound sense of longing and nostalgia for something lost. The German term Fernweh describes a yearning for distant places. The Ifaluk people of Micronesia offer another compelling example. Their language includes the term fago, which combines compassion, love, and sadness into a single emotion. This word doesn't just describe a feeling, it shapes how the Ifaluk people respond to emotional situations. Similarly, Inuit languages have numerous terms for different types of snow. This reflects the emotional and practical significance of snow in their daily lives. These examples demonstrate how language not only captures emotions, but also creates frameworks for experiencing and interpreting them. The way we frame concepts through language can influence how we think and act. For instance, describing a medical procedure as having a 90% survival rate leads to a more positive response than stating it has a 10% mortality rate, even though the two phrases convey the same information. This framing effect shows how subtle changes in language can alter perceptions and decisions, often subconsciously. Framing effects are not limited to individuals. They can shape entire cultural mindsets. In German, for example, the word for debt, Schuld, also means guilt, reflecting a cultural view of financial responsibility as a moral obligation. In contrast, English separates the two concepts, potentially leading to different attitudes toward borrowing and risk-taking. From how we perceive time and space to how we see colors and feel emotions, language subtly but profoundly shapes our experiences. It acts as both a lens and a filter, highlighting certain aspects of reality while obscuring others. The examples we've explored demonstrate that language isn't just a tool for communication. It's a force that influences how we understand and navigate the world. Nonverbal and artificial languages, expanding the limits of thought language as we commonly think of it, is spoken or written, but it is by no means the only form of communication. Nonverbal languages, such as sign language, mathematics, and even programming languages, offer unique ways of understanding and interacting with the world. These systems challenge the boundaries of traditional language, revealing that thought is not confined to words alone. Sign language, communication beyond words. Sign languages are fully developed linguistic systems with their own grammar, syntax, and cultural richness. Unlike spoken languages, they rely on visual gestures, facial expressions, and spatial orientation. For instance, American Sign Language, ASL, uses hand movements and facial expressions to convey both literal and abstract ideas, often with a degree of nuance that spoken language might struggle to match. Research has shown that sign language users often excel in spatial reasoning tasks. For instance, when recalling the locations of objects in a room, signers tend to perform better than non-signers. This cognitive advantage stems from the spatial nature of sign language, which requires constant awareness of spatial relationships. By engaging the brain's visual and spatial processing centers, sign language shapes and enhances specific cognitive abilities. Imagine if spoken languages incorporated spatial elements as naturally as sign languages do. How might this reshape our ability to conceptualize and navigate the world? Mathematics, the universal language. Mathematics is often referred to as the universal language, capable of expressing ideas that transcend cultural and linguistic barriers. Concepts like infinity, zero, and imaginary numbers illustrate the power of mathematics to describe phenomena that spoken languages might struggle to articulate. Consider the Fibonacci sequence, a mathematical pattern that appears throughout nature, in the arrangement of sunflower seeds, the spirals of galaxies, and the growth of tree branches. These patterns demonstrate the universality of mathematical concepts, bridging gaps between diverse cultures and languages. Mathematics not only describes the world, but also reveals hidden patterns and connections, offering a shared framework for exploring reality. Programming languages, beyond human communication. Programming languages like Python, Java, and C++ are designed for precision and logic, eliminating the ambiguity often found in human languages. Each command in a programming language has a specific and predictable outcome, enabling the creation of complex systems like apps, websites, and artificial intelligence. Programming also reshapes how people think. Coders are trained to break complex problems into smaller, manageable tasks, a process that mirrors computational thinking. For instance, developing an algorithm to sort data requires not only technical skills, but also a logical and structured approach to problem solving. As programming languages evolve, they increasingly incorporate natural language elements, blurring the line between human and machine communication. Could the growing influence of programming languages redefine how we approach problem-solving and decision-making in everyday life? Music as a nonverbal language. Music is another form of nonverbal language that transcends words. It communicates emotions, tells stories, and fosters connections across cultures. Unlike spoken language, which relies on syntax and vocabulary, music uses rhythm, melody, and harmony to convey meaning. For instance, a minor key often evokes sadness or introspection, while a major key feels uplifting and joyful. These emotional associations are not arbitrary. They are deeply rooted in human psychology. Music also operates on patterns and structures, much like language, enabling listeners to anticipate and appreciate its progression. Studies have shown that musical training enhances neural connectivity, particularly in areas related to memory and auditory processing. This suggests that music, like sign language, shapes specific cognitive abilities, offering insights into the power of nonverbal communication. Artificial languages, designed for precision and creativity. Artificial languages such as Esperanto, Lojban, and even fictional languages like Klingon from Star Trek challenge traditional notions of language. Esperanto was created in the late 19th century as a universal second language, aiming to foster international understanding. While it never achieved widespread adoption, it remains a symbol of linguistic innovation. Lojban, on the other hand, is a logical language designed to eliminate ambiguity. Its grammar ensures that every sentence has only one possible interpretation, making it a powerful tool for precise communication. Advocates argue that learning Lojban can improve cognitive clarity and logical reasoning. Fictional languages, like Elvish from The Lord of the Rings or Dothraki from Game of Thrones, demonstrate the creative potential of artificial languages. These systems add depth to fictional worlds, inspiring fans to learn and use them in real life. Communities built around these languages highlight how artificial languages can foster connection and creativity. Nonverbal and artificial languages challenge the dominance of spoken language, offering alternative ways to conceptualize and interact with reality. They reveal that thought isn't confined to words, and that human creativity knows no bounds. From sign languages and mathematics to programming and music, these systems demonstrate the incredible diversity of human expression. As technology advances, hybrid languages combining spoken, nonverbal, and artificial elements may emerge, expanding the limits of what language can achieve. These innovations remind us that language in all its forms is a testament to humanity's boundless ingenuity and adaptability. Philosophical and scientific challenges of language forward. Language is a powerful tool, but it is not without limitations. Philosophers and scientists alike have long pondered the boundaries of language. What can it express? What does it obscure? And what lies beyond its reach? In this section, we'll explore how language shapes our understanding of complex concepts, the limitations it imposes, and the ways in which we attempt to overcome these challenges. Concepts beyond words. The inexpressible one of the most profound limitations of language is its inability to fully capture certain abstract concepts. Take emotions, for example. While words like happiness, love, or fear give us a general sense of these feelings, they often fall short of conveying their depth and complexity. The German word Weltschmerz refers to a deep sadness about the imperfections of the world, a feeling that lacks an exact equivalent in English. Similarly, the Portuguese word saudade captures a bittersweet longing for something lost, blending nostalgia, love, and sorrow. Adding to this, the Ifaluk people of Micronesia have a unique emotional term, fago, which combines love, compassion, and sadness. This word doesn't just describe a feeling, it shapes how the Ifaluk people perceive and respond to emotional situations. Such examples highlight the gaps in language and raise the question, if we lack the words to describe a concept, can we fully understand or even experience it? Wittgenstein and the limits of language. Ludwig Wittgenstein, one of the most influential philosophers of the 20th century, famously stated, "Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent." For Wittgenstein, language defines the boundaries of what can be thought and communicated. If a concept cannot be expressed in words, it lies outside the realm of human understanding. This idea is particularly evident in fields like metaphysics and theology, where concepts such as infinity, eternity, or the divine often resist linguistic expression. Can we truly grasp the nature of infinity, or are we constrained by the limitations of our vocabulary and mental frameworks? Consider how this plays out in scientific terminology. The term black hole, for instance, effectively conveys the idea of a region in space with immense gravitational pull. Yet the metaphor hole implies emptiness, which can mislead public understanding. Black holes are not empty, they are incredibly dense. This example illustrates Wittgenstein's point. Language, while enabling communication, can also obscure or distort reality. In the realm of science, language plays a crucial role in advancing knowledge, but it also faces unique challenges. Scientific discoveries often require new terms and symbols to describe phenomena that defy everyday understanding. For example, concepts like quarks, dark matter, and entropy represent ideas that are difficult to grasp without specialized knowledge. Mathematics, as the language of science, helps overcome some of these limitations by providing a precise and universal framework for describing physical reality. Equations like Einstein's E equals mc query convey complex relationships in ways that words alone cannot. However, even mathematics has its boundaries, as it relies on assumptions and models that may not fully capture the intricacies of the universe. Another challenge of language is its inherent ambiguity. Words often have multiple meanings, and context plays a crucial role in determining their interpretation. For instance, the word bank can refer to a financial institution or the side of a river. While native speakers navigate these ambiguities with ease, they can pose significant challenges in cross-cultural communication or machine translation. This ambiguity extends to larger texts, where meaning can be influenced by cultural assumptions, historical context, or individual perspectives. For example, religious scriptures are often interpreted in vastly different ways by different communities, leading to debates and conflicts over their true meaning. Philosophers like Jacques Derrida have explored this ambiguity, arguing that meaning is never fixed but constantly shifting. For Derrida, language is a dynamic and fluid system, where the act of interpretation plays a central role in constructing meaning. Language doesn't just describe the world, it also influences how we think about it. Cognitive biases, such as framing effects, demonstrate how the way information is presented can shape our decisions and perceptions. For example, describing a medical procedure as having a 90% survival rate leads to a more positive response than stating it has a 10% mortality rate, even though the two phrases convey the same statistical reality. This phenomenon underscores the power of language to manipulate and persuade, raising ethical questions about its use in advertising, politics, and media. How can we ensure that language promotes understanding rather than distortion? And how can we guard against the biases it introduces? Breaking the boundaries, new approaches to language. Despite its limitations, humanity continues to push the boundaries of language. Advances in artificial intelligence and machine learning are enabling the development of new ways to communicate, from real-time translation tools to voice assistants like Siri and Alexa. These technologies aim to bridge linguistic divides and expand access to information, but they also raise questions about the future of language. Could AI create a universal language that eliminates ambiguity and misunderstanding? Or would such a language lack the richness and cultural depth of human communication? These questions highlight the tension between precision and creativity, efficiency and expression. Another frontier is the creation of constructed languages, such as Esperanto, which was designed to foster international understanding, or Lojban, which aims to eliminate ambiguity through logical grammar. While these languages remain niche, they represent humanity's ongoing quest to refine and expand the possibilities of communication. The philosophical and scientific challenges of language reveal both its power and its limitations. Language shapes how we think, communicate, and understand the world, but it is not a perfect tool. Its ambiguities, biases, and boundaries remind us that there is always more to explore, both within and beyond the realm of words. As humanity continues to evolve, so does the way we communicate. Advances in technology, globalization, and cultural shifts are shaping the future of language in ways that were once unimaginable. In this section, we'll explore how languages are changing, the potential emergence of new languages, and how future communication systems could reshape the way we think and interact with the world. Technology has already transformed how we use and understand language. The rise of digital communication has introduced new words, phrases, and even symbols into everyday usage. Emojis, for instance, have become a universal form of expression, capable of conveying complex emotions with a single image. A simple "or" can transcend linguistic barriers, enabling people from different cultures to connect in ways that words alone might not. Translation technologies are also advancing rapidly. Tools like Google Translate and apps like Duolingo are narrowing the gap between speakers of different languages, making global communication more accessible than ever. Imagine a future where wearable devices offer instant, flawless translation, allowing people to converse seamlessly, regardless of their native tongue. However, as technology makes communication more efficient, questions arise about its cultural implications. Will the richness and nuance of traditional languages be lost in favor of simplified, universal forms of communication? Or could technology preserve and even enhance the diversity of human languages? Globalization is creating a world where cultures and languages mix more than ever before. This blending is giving rise to hybrid languages, such as Spanglish, a mix of Spanish and English, or Hinglish, a blend of Hindi and English. These languages reflect the realities of multicultural communities, where people combine linguistic elements to express themselves more effectively. Hybrid languages are not just practical, they are creative. They allow speakers to merge the precision of one language with the emotional depth of another. For instance, a Spanglish speaker might say, "Let's plan una fiesta," seamlessly switching between English and Spanish to convey their message. As these hybrid languages become more widespread, they challenge traditional notions of linguistic purity. Could the future of language lie in fluid, adaptable systems that blend elements from multiple tongues? The emergence of new languages. Throughout history, new languages have emerged in response to changing cultural and social needs. Esperanto, created in the late 19th century, was designed as a universal second language to promote peace and understanding. While it never achieved its ambitious goals, it remains a symbol of humanity's desire for linguistic unity. Looking ahead, new languages could arise in response to technological and scientific advancements. Imagine a language specifically designed for space exploration, where clarity and precision are paramount. Alternatively, consider a digital language optimized for communication with artificial intelligence, using symbols and codes that surpass the limitations of human speech. Could these new languages redefine how we think and interact with the world? And what challenges might arise in teaching and adopting them globally? Artificial intelligence and language creation. Artificial intelligence, AI, is already playing a role in shaping the future of language. AI systems like GPT, similar to the one creating this text, can generate coherent, human-like language. These systems analyze and synthesize vast amounts of linguistic data, offering opportunities to develop entirely new forms of communication. One intriguing possibility is the creation of a universal AI-driven language. Such a language could eliminate ambiguity, provide unparalleled precision, and adapt dynamically to the needs of its users. For instance, AI could design a hybrid language that combines spoken words, visual symbols, and even haptic feedback, enabling multisensory communication that goes beyond traditional linguistic boundaries. However, this vision raises ethical and philosophical challenges. Would a universal AI-driven language homogenize human culture, erasing the diversity of existing languages? Or could it coexist with traditional languages, enhancing rather than replacing them? Preserving endangered languages. While the future of language holds exciting possibilities, it's also important to acknowledge the threats facing many traditional languages. Thousands of languages around the world are at risk of extinction as younger generations shift toward dominant global languages like English, Mandarin, or Spanish. Efforts to preserve endangered languages often involve technology. Digital archives, language learning apps, and virtual reality experiences are being used to document and teach these languages, ensuring they are not lost to history. For example, the Wukchumni tribe in California has created digital dictionaries and recordings to preserve their native tongue for future generations. Preserving endangered languages isn't just about saving words. It's about maintaining cultural identity, history, and unique ways of thinking that enrich humanity as a whole. The intersection of language and thought. As new languages and communication systems emerge, they will inevitably influence how we think. Just as existing languages shape our perception of time, space, and emotion, future languages could introduce entirely new ways of understanding the world. A language designed to emphasize sustainability, for example, might reshape how speakers think about their relationship with the environment. Similarly, a universal language could foster a sense of global unity, breaking down barriers and encouraging collaboration. But it could also lead to tensions, as communities strive to preserve their linguistic and cultural heritage in the face of homogenization. The future of multilingualism. In a connected world, multilingualism is becoming increasingly valuable. People who speak multiple languages often report cognitive benefits, such as enhanced problem-solving skills and greater creativity. As technology makes language learning more accessible, the future may see more individuals embracing multilingualism, not just out of necessity, but as a means of expanding their mental horizons. Imagine a future where learning a new language is as simple as downloading an app or using an AI tutor. Could this democratization of language learning lead to a more inclusive, interconnected world? Or would it create new divides, as those with access to advanced technology gain linguistic advantages over others? The future of language is both exciting and uncertain. From hybrid languages and AI-driven communication systems to efforts to preserve endangered tongues, humanity's linguistic landscape is evolving in unprecedented ways. These changes will not only reshape how we communicate, but also how we think, perceive, and understand the world. As we look to the future, let's remember that language is more than words. It's a reflection of who we are and who we aspire to be. The possibilities are endless, but they come with responsibilities. To preserve linguistic diversity, embrace innovation, and use language as a force for connection and understanding. Conclusion: the power and potential of language. Language is far more than a tool for communication. It is the foundation of how we think, connect, and understand the world. Throughout this journey, we've explored its complexities, its limitations, and its potential to shape not just our thoughts, but our very reality. Let's revisit the key insights we've uncovered and reflect on what they mean for the future of language and humanity. Language as a shaper of perception. We've seen how language shapes the way we perceive time, space, and even color. From the Hopi people's unique view of time to the Kuuk-Thaayore's reliance on cardinal directions, it's clear that the structure of a language influences its speakers' cognitive processes. These examples remind us that there is no single correct way to experience the world. Instead, language provides diverse lenses through which we interpret reality. But language is not just about perception. It's about meaning. Words like saudade in Portuguese or fago in Efaluk reveal how language creates unique frameworks for understanding emotions. Without these words, would these feelings be less recognizable or even less real? Language is both a bridge and a barrier. It connects people, enabling collaboration and shared understanding, but it also limits us, imposing boundaries on what we can express. Philosophers like Ludwig Wittgenstein have emphasized these constraints, while scientists continue to grapple with the ambiguities and biases embedded in language. For instance, framing effects in communication demonstrate how subtle shifts in wording can dramatically alter perception. Describing a medical procedure as having a 90% survival rate instead of a 10% mortality rate shows how language can shape our decisions, often without us realizing it. This dual nature of language underscores its immense power and the responsibility that comes with using it wisely. Nonverbal and artificial languages. Beyond spoken and written words, nonverbal and artificial languages expand the possibilities of communication. From the visual precision of sign languages to the universal logic of mathematics, these systems challenge the dominance of traditional languages and open new pathways for thought. Programming languages and artificial intelligence are also redefining how we interact with technology and each other. Could an AI-driven universal language eliminate ambiguity and foster global understanding? Or would it sacrifice the cultural richness and individuality of human languages? Music, too, serves as a powerful nonverbal language, transcending linguistic barriers to evoke emotions and create connections. These diverse systems remind us that language, in all its forms, is a testament to humanity's boundless creativity. The future of language and thought. As globalization and technology continue to shape our world, the future of language holds exciting possibilities. Hybrid languages like Spanglish and Hinglish reflect the blending of cultures, while efforts to preserve endangered tongues protect humanity's linguistic heritage. At the same time, artificial intelligence is paving the way for new forms of communication, from real-time translation to entirely new languages optimized for digital interaction. However, these advancements come with challenges. How can we balance the efficiency of universal communication with the need to preserve linguistic diversity? How can we ensure that language remains a force for connection rather than division? Language is a reflection of who we are, our history, our culture, and our aspirations. As we move forward, let us use this knowledge to embrace the diversity of languages, foster understanding across borders, and explore new ways of communicating. If you've enjoyed this journey into the power and potential of language, consider sharing your thoughts. How has language shaped your worldview? What role do you think it will play in the future? Don't forget to subscribe to FactUp for more explorations into fascinating topics like this. Together, let's continue to challenge assumptions, expand our minds, and celebrate the beauty of language in all its forms.